Hello, my darlings, and welcome back to my channel. Hi, if you're new here, my name's Nash. I like to read and talk about all things books, and it is Bookmas Day 5. Speaking of the number 5, in today's video, we're going to go through all of my 5-star reads of 2025. I believe there are 22 books that I rated 5 stars. There are only 2 books that I gave 6 stars, so I did go ahead and put them in this list because they still deserve to be mentioned, even though it's only 2 of them. And if you like this video and more bookish content, please don't hesitate to like, comment, and subscribe. Let's get into the video. Starting out with the first book I gave 5 stars this year, Eternum by Jamie Applegate Hunter. This is book 2 of the Vincula Realm duology. Book 1 is The Umbra King. And in this story, we follow Rory, who witnesses her sister's brutal unaliving and decides to get her own revenge. She decides she is going to try to hunt the person who unalived her sister. But in the meantime, she becomes a serial unaliver, taking out dirty, evil men. And I absolutely eat up a female who will do what needs to be done in some of these situations. This was a really fast-paced story, but it wasn't overwhelming. I loved the romance. It was a slower burn with an MMC who has a filthy, filthy mouth and will do anything and make great sacrifices for her, which I'm going to eat up every single time. The found family in this story is also something that's really underrated, in my opinion, because she really makes a group of great friends and everybody kind of welcomes her with open arms, which I always love because some of these FMCs be really going through it. And I really thought that this was a fire duology. Then we have The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. This felt a little out of my comfort zone because I primarily read fantasy books that have romance in them. And this one didn't really have any, I don't believe it had any romance in it at all. So for the first like 90 pages, I did struggle to get into the story. There was a lot of information and world building going on. However, I was absolutely hooked when our FMC said, because I want to break his stupid face. Oh, I love it when an FMC is rough and rowdy. And I really do appreciate the heavier themes that were explored in this, things like physical abuse, substance abuse, and the true brutality of war. There was one scene that I remember vividly where I was bawling my eyes out because it was just so graphic and horrible, but it really went to emphasize the brutality of war. This was a crazy, crazy read. In this story, we follow Ren, and to the utter dismay of everyone around her, she passes an empire-wide test called the Keju and gains entry to learn at the Synagogue, which is an elite military academy. She is basically a no one from a no one village. So everyone was like, there's no way she's going to pass this. And she did without cheating. So she earned her spot. But of course, she has her own trials and tribulations. And because she's dark skinned, she is targeted by her rival classmates right out the gate. Definitely check the triggers on this and do not let people tell you that this is a romantasy because it's not. I've seen people specifically over on TikTok say that The Poppy War is a romantasy, and it's absolutely not. I'm really intrigued to finish the rest of the series because Ren is a badass, and that ending I still think about sometimes. These next two I'm going to put together because they're 2 books in the same series. We have Iron and Embers and Silver and Smoke by Helen Scher, books 1 and 3 of the Ashes of Thesmar series, which is a spin-off to the Legends of Thesmar. If you have not read that series, in that story we follow Thea and Wilder, but in Ashes of Thesmar, we follow Ren and Torge. And if you want a man who yearns, Torge Elderbrock is one of my kings of yearning. I absolutely love this story. Post the events of Legends of Thesmar, our FMC Ren is not only an alchemist, but a poisoner. And she's invited to go to an elite academy where she can learn more about alchemy. And who is her bodyguard to keep her safe? It is Torge Elderbrock. Since this is a spinoff of Legends of Thesmar, you do not have to read that in order to enjoy this series, but I would highly recommend it because you get the background between the characters. And if you want to feel maximum emotional damage, the yearning, the tension, I think you need to read Legends of Thesmar in order to truly experience the full scope of it. But you can read this by itself. I loved this so much. Book 3, Silver and Smoke, I felt like was the perfect conclusion to the trilogy. Everything fell into place. I didn't feel like there was anything missing. Could there be another series somewhere down the line? Possibly. I really loved all of the side characters, Kip, Cal. I love the involvement of Thea and Wilder. Literally every single character from Legends of Thesmar, except the ones who aren't with us anymore. I love how they are still playing a factor in this series as well. I think Helen Scher did an incredible job of weaving these two series together. It truly just feels like a continuation, but about different people. But all the key players from the Legends of Desmar were also present. I really loved that the events that took place in the Ashes of Desmar trilogy are kind of like the aftershock or the after effects of what happened in Legends of Desmar. I just love this series in general. The spice was amazing, the romance was amazing. I could literally yap on about this series all the time because guess what? This is a new addition to my God tier series list because I don't think it could be done any better than that. We have Living Legend by Ali Shantae. This is a series that gives me similar, not the same, but similar vibes to Diana from the Book of Azrael. Danny has been personally groomed by Lilith herself and has been wreaking havoc in purgatory when things start happening and demons start showing up where they're not supposed to be. And she is summoned to Heaven's Gate and tasked with finding out what's going on. But she also has a partner who is objectively gorgeous and an angel. I really loved the audiobook performance in this. I love this story and I'm really interested to continue. I really want the audiobook though. I did talk with the author Ali Shantae when I got to meet her at Romanticycon. And of course, she let me know book two would take some time because it is an expensive project, but I really do want to continue the series on audio. So I haven't bit the bullet just yet with continuing the series, but I'm excited to do a reread whenever the other audiobooks do come out because it is a completed trilogy. Another badass FMC, which I absolutely loved. This book was so enjoyable. We get a shadow mommy. If you don't know what a shadow mommy is, it's when the FMC has shadow powers, which I always find interesting because usually the male main character is the one with the shadows. So I will eat up a female main character using shadows because I always think it's interesting to see what she will do with them, if you get my drift. We get a mystery investigation going on, and I loved all the characters, including the side characters. Some of them were hilarious. There are angels and demons in this world, and I loved all the craziness. The spice was definitely spicing, very steamy. I thought the world building and the magic were really fantastic. I thought the magic was really cool and the world building was executed very well. I can't wait to continue the trilogy. Another absolute banger, The Secret World of Maggie Gray by Granger. This is a blackety black book and it was so amazing. We follow Maggie and she is a postgraduate student who is tasked with writing an essay. She does not do the assignment whatsoever. She tells a story about her grandmother that gets her an invitation to a magical HBCU set in underground Atlanta. We get a witch, a siren, and a vampire. I truly love that this book was filled with cultural references and AAVE. I felt like I was just listening to my cousin tell her story when I had the audiobook. It was so special reading something like this. This book felt like a true band of misfits getting together. I love where the story is going. I genuinely laughed out loud so many times while reading this. I highly recommend checking out the audiobook because it was a beautiful experience. And now I want to be a student at Drew Collins University. Oathbound by Tracy Dion is one of my two 6-star reads of the year. This book was absolutely incredible. This is book 3 of the Legendborn cycle and a highly, highly anticipated release for me. Tracy Dion did not disappoint. Every single word on this page felt needed. I loved it. I was absolutely able to just jump back into the story. Now, did I do a reread of Legendborn and Bloodmarked before this? Absolutely, because I read Legendborn and Bloodmarked at the end of 2023. So I really wanted to get a refresher, even though I really didn't need it, if I'm being honest, because I think about this world and these characters so often. Everything just came back to me, no problem. But as you can see, she really put her foot in this book because this is a thick daddy. I really thought the story was in freaking incredible. I love where the plot is progressing to. The cliffhanger at the end had me sitting up looking at this book like, what is happening? Because it was so crazy. And one thing about me, I love a crazy cliffhanger, and this absolutely delivered. The character development was also something that was very beautiful, whether it be Bree, Cell, Nick, everybody felt like they were growing, and I really just enjoy all of the characters in this world because Tracy Dion really has a talent for just great YA fiction. I wonder what she would do in the adult space because her writing style is absolutely impeccable. And if she can get me this turned up as a 27-year-old, almost 28-year-old reading a YA book, I can't imagine what she would do in the adult realm. But I absolutely need book 4 immediately. Like, Immediately, Lethal Souls by Shanora Williams. This is book 3 of the Tether trilogy. And if you want an interracial romance, this is a great option because I loved it so much. Our FMC Willow is just gardening late night after a hard day at work when she notices a purple orb appear, and she's definitely in them clouds and decides to go near it and is teleported to another world where she meets our male main character, Kaz, who is one of my favorite gunslingers I have ever read about. I loved this world. The found family was incredible. The magic and world building were really elevated by the time we got to the conclusion. I love where the plot took us and how they wrapped everything up with this finale. One thing about me, I am a sucker for a really great conclusion. My thing about a great conclusion is I would like you to leave it kind of open in the sense of you could do a continuation if you wanted to, but it absolutely can stand on its own and it doesn't feel like you cut out a chunk of it. It feels like this could be the end of the story. But if you felt like doing a little something else, you could. I love that. And I think this was a great representation of that. I do think Cass is an incredible MMC because he just felt so multi layered, and the way Willow just peeled back those layers. It was honestly such an amazing feeling to read. As someone who's in an interracial couple myself, this was beautiful. Next, we have Enchantra by Kaylee Smith. This is book 2 in the Wicked Games series, but they are interconnected standalone, so you can read them without reading the other. Book 1 is Phantasma, and in that story, we follow Ophelia. In this story, we follow her sister Genevieve, who, after their mother dies, has a lot of questions and receives an invitation to a place called Enchantra, and she decides to go behind her sister's back, and she ends up trapped with our male main character Rowan, who has a lip piercing, by the way, and his family called the Silvers, and is forced to play these deadly games. I did think the games were kind of unique and twisted. Love the mentions of Ophelia in the story, not that she played a part in it at all. I love Kaylee Smith's writing. It's always so fun. The FMCs are always very witty, and I really appreciated that Genevieve was really a voluptuous and sexually liberated woman. That always just gets me every time because I don't need her to be all meek. I need her to be able to throw down. Next, we have The Secrets of Jane by Charlotte Mallory. Listen to the blurb on this one. He's a mercenary with powers that allow him to feel the hearts, desires, and fears of others, and she's his target who must hide her identity at all cost. Oh, we love a hidden identity over here. I love when she's got to keep who she is a secret. I don't care if I know that or I don't know that. I just love that kind of hidden identity trope. But don't get it twisted. Our girl Jane, she knows how to carry her own. This story starts out with Jane and her friend on a night out when a man starts getting a little too disrespectful. So Jane lays him out. Cold hard lays him out. And as they're leaving the bar, she notices that her village is on fire. And that mercenary we were talking about is hot on her tails. This is a hidden gem. I don't see anybody talking about this book, and they absolutely should be. I do believe this is a part of a completed duology, and I need to read that second book. This is one of those ones that I highly recommend checking out the audiobook as well. I felt like it was a great performance and I had a great time while listening. I did enjoy the world building and magical abilities in this story, and the banter and tension with Chef's Kiss, which made the spice that much better. If you want a hidden gem that nobody really talks about, check this one out. Then we have Wildlands and Deadlands, which are books 2 and 3 of the Savage Lands series by Stacey Marie Brown. Book 1 is Savage Lands, and in this series, we follow Brexley, who is a human military officer who has a little side hustle of robbing stuff off moving trains that's going onto the other side of the tracks to the Fae. When she doesn't get off the train in enough time, and she ends up over there with the Fae, who throw her into the most feared prison called Halahaz. This is such an underrated series, too. Do people talk about this one a little more? Yes. Our MMC Warwick definitely has great tension. And I feel like books 2 and 3 got 5 stars from me because not only did they keep me up till 3 a.m. reading them because I was just so enraptured in what was going on, but I really loved the plot progression, the romance, the spice. When I love everything about a book, all the aspects, it's going to get 5 stars from me. And I feel like books 2 and 3 in this series did just that. Book 1 wasn't far off. I think book 1 was like 4.5 stars. So I was just eating up this series and I can't wait to finish. I believe there are 8 books in this series, so I need to get on that. Now onto probably one of my most impactful 5-star reads of 2025, Direbound by Sable Sorensen. If you were a Fourth Wing girly, or if you were someone who didn't really enjoy Fourth Wing and thought it was a little bit flat, then I would highly recommend picking up Direbound. It gives us the same like structure as Fourth Wing, but instead of dragons, we get dire wolves. We still get the same like military academy, but the overall story is completely different from Fourth Wing. In this story, we follow Marin, and her little sister is kidnapped, and she thinks it's by the vampires who they're at war with right now. So what does our girl decide to do? She decides to enlist in the military. Unbeknownst to her, it is what's called the bonding year, which is where they go through a survival of the fittest type trials in order to bond with a massive dire wolf. Of course, our girl does not want to do it. She's just there to try to get to the front line so she can do some research, but she don't got no choice. And she ends up getting bonded to one of the biggest wolves. This was such a great time. The mystery was there, the characters, the world building. I loved every single thing about it. We also get different kind of groups or houses within the military college, which I loved. I like how they break it down between what you're good at or what type of traits you have. I think about this book regularly. I talk about it all the time. I believe this is a great introductory book to the romantasy genre. The world building isn't too complex, but it does have enough lore and history behind it to really keep you intrigued. And the romance, more specifically, the tension. Oh my good God, Lordy, it was so good. Our boy forcibly tattoos her and then licks her neck, and it is one of the most tension filled moments I have read in a story in a long time, and it was just absolutely to die for. I cannot wait to listen to this on my reread with the audiobook because I need to hear what our MMC Stark sounds like because he is just naturally so broody and moody and all the things that we love and just a great romantasy MMC. Stark is that. Then we have another new release for 2025, and that was Shield of Sparrows by Debney Perry. This is her debut into the romantasy genre. I believe she is normally a contemporary romance author. I'm not too sure. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But this is her debut into romantasy, and I thought it was absolutely fantastic. Our FMC Odessa is the spare heir, and y'all know in these fantasy books how they be doing the spare. So she basically be off doing her own thing. Nobody really worries about her. Her sister is the main focus, the main character of their lives, if you will. And in this world, there is this contract made to where a monster hunter can claim their bride called the Sparrow, but he gets to choose. And when he shows up to try and collect his bride, he don't pick her sister. He picks Odessa. And I enjoyed every single second of this book. Odessa is a little different as an FMC. She gives like curious cat, almost ADHD vibes. She loves to ask questions and really get a thorough, detailed understanding. And for me, I love that. I know sometimes asking a lot of questions can get a little irritating, but I thought it was written really well. I love the audiobook narration. They did a great job. And the Guardian and Odessa seemed to really just hit it off. Like he really just like pushing her buttons from the very beginning of the story. I loved the monsters, and the last 100 pages of this really kicked up a notch, and it was action packed and absolute chaos, which left me with a lot of questions by the end of it. So I can't wait until Rights of the Starling comes out in April of 2026 because I need to know what happens in this story. Also, this book has one of the best moments of tension I have ever read. She is the one who he's doing something for her on his knees, right? She pulls his hair to where he looks up at her and they just sit there for a minute. When I tell you I was so hot and bothered, I was literally so hot and bothered. It was absolutely amazing. I loved it. That's why I gave it 5 stars. Next, we have Metal Slinger by Rachel Schneider. This one got 5 stars because of that cliffhanger ending. I'm going to be completely honest with you. Was I going to give it 5 stars as I was reading throughout the entire book? Probably not. I'm not even going to lie because it was a little slow in the middle. But that cliffhanger at the end, the way I was not expecting it at all, absolutely bumped it up to a 5 stars. In this story, we follow Bren, and she is a young soldier with the Alaha people, which are the people that were exiled and forced to live over the sea. Every year, there is an annual market day hosted by the Kenta people, the land people, the same people, by the way, who banished the Alahas over the sea. They hold an annual market every year, and a bunch of the young Alaha soldiers are invited to go, our girl Bren included. When she unintentionally breaks a century-long treaty between the two people, it was so good. I will say our MMC gives us cinnamon roll that could kill you vibes. Our FMC is definitely the one on the more badass end of the spectrum. But again, that cliffhanger at the ending is what gave this book 5 stars because the way that the plot just twisted was crazy. Moving right along, we have The Forgotten and the Feared by E.C. Garrett. This one, if you want a dark fantasy romance, pick this book up, okay? Because the things that happen in this book will make you want to chuck it or punch people through the pages because it was absolutely gory and gruesome. In this world, we're following two characters, best friends Amalia and Diana. And in this world, the Fae have subjugated and almost eradicated the dragons, who are normally revered as gods. They typically are in fantasy, as they should be. Dragons should be loved and respected. But in this world, humans are chosen at random to compete in a deadly set of trials called the Gauntlet. And they don't get a choice. You get chosen, you have to fight. And the only way to win is by slaying a dragon. Y'all, they literally eat baby dragons to obtain power. They literally eat dragons, the babies. And y'all know, if you've ever read a fantasy book or enough fantasy books with dragons, you know how precious dragon babies are. So for them to do that, I wanted to fight so bad, but I really loved the trials. Our male main character is her teacher. I hate the idea of slaying dragons, but the way that everything was just woven together in this story, it kept me on the edge of my seat. And again, the ending of this book, the way I need the next one. And then I listened to the Quicksilver bonus scenes from Kingfisher's POV. Yes, is this a couple of chapters and I gave it 5 stars? Yes, I did. But if you've ever listened to a Quicksilver audiobook, Anthony Palmini as Kingfisher will make you want to get a book 5 stars every time. Okay. And not only did we get some background knowledge on Fisher and some of the really important events to not only himself, but the story, but we get to listen to him gush about Saris and we get to hear his thoughts about our girl. And it was absolutely amazing. I loved it. And I don't care about giving it 5 stars, even if it was short. Immortal Dark by Tiga Skirma. This is Black vampires. And if you want a great dark academia vampire romance, then pick up this book, okay? Because it's really giving enemies, and it's still enemies. They really not love us for real before the end of this book. So I love a good slow burn. In this story, we follow Kidan, and her family raised her away from the elusive life of vampire society, but she is an orphan heiress. Don't get it twisted. And her little sister has gone missing. And when she finds out the perpetrator is at Yuxley Academy, she has to find a way to infiltrate the school. Our MMC, Susan Yost, or Yost for short, gives Klaus Michelson, but make it black. I loved it so much. And Eternal Ruin is out now, which is book 2. And I'm a little scared to read it because that means I'll have to wait for book 3 and the conclusion to the trilogy. So I don't know if I want to progress, but I loved this so much. The characters, the world building, the moments of tension, them in that hot spring. Yeah, them in that hot spring was everything. The Wrath of the Fallen by Amber V. Nicole. This is book 4 of the Gods and Monsters series and probably my most anticipated read of this entire year. Did it deliver? Yes, it did. This was my second 6-star read of 2025. In freaking incredible, absolutely amazing, gobsmack, phenomenal, whatever you want to call it. This book was that. I love these characters in this world so much. They genuinely speak to me on another level. Diana is my girl. Sam Kyle and their relationship just, oh, it just slaps. It slaps so good. And the feminine rage and banter. And I could literally yap on and on and on and on and on about this series because I literally love it that much. But I really enjoyed how the plot is progressing, the crazy twists and turns of this story. I never really know what's going to happen, so I know not to even set any expectations. I know not to theorize. I don't need to do any of that because it's always going to have me guessing and on the edge of my seat. Our bad guy, Nizmira, is the perfect bad guy. And I love that not only is our villain a woman, but she's like, she cold, okay? She know how to throw them bows. She know how to fight. You know what I mean? She's just as gruesome and get it out the mud like the men are. And she's not just like some queen that has powers or something like that, which I love and respect. Caden and Isaiah, they're getting their little redemptions, if you will. Isaiah, I'm here for. Caden, not so much. You know who's never going to get a redemption arc for me? And I will say this for as long as I live. Vincent, no thank you. And I understand. I understand his plight. I understand why he had to do what happened. Do I give a damn? No, I don't. Can I ever forgive him? No, I can't. And ain't nobody gonna change my mind otherwise. Another great character. Cameron added so much humor and just love and light to this series. After everything he been going through too, he is just such a great side character. And Reggie, and I just love the found family around all of these characters. The way that they have each other's backs and genuinely care about each other means so much to me. And this was incredible. The Serpent's Bride by Catherine Ann Kingsley. This is a vampire mafia romance, and I was not expecting it to be a 5-star read. Not that I really set any expectations when it comes to books I go into, but I don't know. No one ever talks about this. It wasn't something that was super popular or advertised or anything like that. So I wasn't expecting it to be an absolute banger, which it was. In this story, we follow Nadi, who is a shapeshifter, and she has serious beef with the vampire mafia family, the Nostrums. She finds out that one of the Nostrums is getting into an arranged marriage, and she says, you know what? Come here, baby girl. Let me take your spot so I can infiltrate this family and slaughter them all from within. I enjoyed the fact that she was a shapeshifter. That's something different than what we usually get. We usually get an assassin, a thief, vigilante, or even someone like a dainty little princess. But I really liked that she was a shapeshifter and had the whole other form. That was so unique to me and added an extra layer of just wow to the story. But the story in itself was great. The will she, won't she get caught aspect of it, the anxiety I felt trying to go through this book while she's trying to infiltrate them and navigate having feelings for one of them at the same time. It gives enemies to maybe possibly lovers back to enemies. I really enjoyed the world, the plot, the mafia vibes of it all. Our male main character, he was great. And I'm excited to see what book two has in store, which comes out in January. And our final 5-star read of 2025, Anathema by Carrie Lake. Y'all, I am so mad again at myself and beating myself up that I did not read this book sooner, because if you want spooky gothic vibes, this is going to be the perfect hit. If you want like a creepy forest that people go in and never come out of, this is the book for you. If you want one of the best spicy scenes I have ever read, she takes his magic somehow, screws herself so he can feel it through the magic. And then when she's done, gives him the magic back and go to sleep. Oh my God, I lived for this. In this story, we follow Mavis, and in her town, there is this forest that people go into and don't come out of. And any of the sinners, they get banished to the woods. Her sister ends up getting banished to the woods, and she runs in after her to try and save her. Except she ends up going into a whole nother country, basically, and is captured and forced to try and train. This is a thick daddy, but it definitely kept me engaged and entertained the entire time. I loved our male main character because that man, oh, he was fighting it every step of the way. We got his inner monologue too, because even though he was trying to fight it on the outside, that inner monologue, he wanted that girl bad and he was mad as hell about it. We get a prophecy, which I will eat up every single time. The magic is cool. The world building and lore I thought were really well done. And I can't wait to listen to Eldritch. I will be waiting for the audiobook to drop because this one was immaculate. And I know a lot of people talk about the male main character during spicy scenes, but this one, the woman, the way she was begging him, okay, y'all, you just have to give it a listen. I would highly recommend it. 10 out of 10. And this was a great 5-star read to round out my end of the year. If you stayed and watched this entire video, thank you so much for supporting. I greatly appreciate it. And I will see you back tomorrow for Bookmas Day 6. Bye, guys. See you next time.